Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to Skyblock 1.16. I hope you guys are having a good day. In today's episode, we are going to be doing something about this giant squealing mess behind me. We're actually going to be upgrading the Zombie Pigman farm to a true Zombie Pigman farm. None of these piglins messing around getting in the way, because we've got a decent piglin bartering setup here, but most of all, I want to make sure that we can get rid of the piglins from in here and get lots and lots of gold so that we can then use that to convert some zombie villagers back into regular villagers and do a little bit more exciting trading stuff in the overworld. And for that, I have been hard at work gathering some magma blocks. That's right, I have basically 7.5 stacks in my inventory right now. I've spent a lot of time over at the Magma Cube farm that we set up in the previous episode, just swiping away with looting, getting hold of as many magma cream as I possibly could. The farm actually runs pretty well, the problem being that you only really get magma cream from the larger and medium-sized magma cubes. The smaller ones don't drop it at all, and yes, I'm aware that I kind of missized the platform and ended up with one side larger than the other. Sorry about that, cannot unsee. But anyway, we managed to get the magma cream farm going, and it's provided me with enough magma cream to make a really decent amount of blocks, and I think with that, we're going to rework this Zombie Pigman spawning platform and create a spawning platform worthy of Skyblock. In fact, it's actually going to be fairly simple to do, because as we've seen from this example, the platform fills up pretty quickly because we're building it at Y0 or Y1, basically the lowest point in the world, more or less, and so we won't really need to worry too much about having multiple platforms in the design, multiple layers. We might even just get away with doing a semicircle around here, and the plan is still to have the Zombie Pigman, the piglins, come in from a distance and hopefully just run across an area to get up to this platform of hoppers here. But for the farm to run constantly, we basically want to make sure that they are coming in from a decent distance away, because then they'll spawn pretty much consistently. As we continue to kill zombie pigmen inside of the trap area here, they're just going to keep streaming in from the outside as they respawn. So I'm going to get to work on that in just a second. The first thing I need to do, however, is go back to the overworld and grab myself some food, because as you can see from my inventory, I am basically all out. Okay, so step number 1, feed Pixlriffs, has been achieved, and for step number 2, I brought a little bit of glass over that I traded from my librarian villagers. You really don't need to worry about sand in Skyblock if all you want is glass and you've got a couple of villagers handy. So we're going to step down here and we're just going to clear out all of the zombie pigmen from the platform, all of the piglins and stuff as well, which just means hacking away at their feet until they're all dead, really. And I think the platform is just about clear for entry. We have a couple of zombie pigmen just kind of standing around here, but they aren't doing a whole lot. They're just kind of on the edge there, and now I should be able to remove all of the blocks of this platform. I could light it up a little bit as well, but we'll have to do some pretty comprehensive lighting to make sure neither of the piglin kind spawn. However, maybe one torch every couple of blocks is going to make it roughly as spawn-proof as we need it to be for the time being. And now, alas, this platform here has to go. I've taken the roof off of it. We're going to take out the rest of the platform here as well. I don't want any solid blocks to be within spawning range of this area, and we also have to make sure that we don't leave any areas that could be spawnable for ghasts as well. Much as most of the infrastructure we have here now is pretty ghast-proof, I don't want them blowing up the crimson vines as I try to escape or getting anywhere near the portal. We basically don't want ghasts in the nether at all until we can build somewhere for them to stay contained. So it's also going to be a matter of taking out this entire platform block by block as well, and thankfully this iron pickaxe that I'm using right now has unbreaking on it, otherwise we could potentially be running back for another pickaxe. And now with all of these solid blocks dispatched into the void, the next thing we're going to do is grab our glass and we're going to make sure that we build a radius of 23 blocks from the starting point over here out of glass. And of course we are going to need a little bit more glass than this. I just brought enough that I could trade with me today, and then I can head back to the overworld and grab a little bit more. So we're going to start out here. We've got 2 blocks basically before the area we're standing, so we want to go 21 blocks out from here to about this point, and from there we're going to make basically a semicircle around the outside here and hopefully be able to channel all the piglins into this central section here, which seems to be the only place they'll think they can get towards the player standing here. That is my hope, at least. I really hope this is going to work out okay. And so using the plots.co.uk ellipse modeler, what I've ended up doing is figure out a circle with a radius of 23 blocks, basically a circle that's 45 blocks across. And so this might actually look quite large, but really that's just making sure that each of the blocks outside of this semicircle of glass is going to be outside of the radius of 23 blocks from that point there, meaning that it will be spawnable. Now comes the tricky part, because we actually have a little bit of extra glass here along with the magma blocks, because we need to make sure that as we place these magma blocks for the zombie pigmen to spawn on, they need to be ghast proof, and we're going to do that with a sort of slim network of glass over the top of it, in kind of the same way that we've done on the zombie pigman farm that we made in the survival guide world, just making sure that we're blocking ghasts from spawning, and actually magma cubes as well, because I think magma cubes need a certain area in which to spawn. We're making sure that we limit the height over the top of the platforms, and the magma blocks are going to start spawning zombie pigmen basically straight away. We should be fine because they won't chain aggro from any other zombie pigmen that might have spawned in the area, but we just need to make very certain that we do not end up hitting any of them, and we're going to space out the glass platforms over the top of this using the cobblestone blocks that I brought with me. But for now, we're just going to come out 8 blocks from the platform on each of these areas, and we're just going to extend the semicircle shape out. We're not going to worry too much about making it super distant from the sides over there, so it's basically just going to be like 2 wedges sat on top of each other, and that's really going to be all we need, because I've already given this a quick test in a creative test world just to make sure that everything worked out with the farm, and it's a very simple expansion to the farm we already had, but my days, is it going to be productive. I'm going to need some more storage chests over there as well in a minute. This is going to be pretty wild. I'm going to do the rest of this as a quick time lapse, and you can see what I'm doing is placing 2 cobblestone blocks in between each of these glass kind of rows that we're placing up here, and making sure that the glass rows extend the full length of the platform of magma blocks, just from one side to the other, from the front to the back, just making sure that we cover the entire length of the magma platform. That way we can make sure that no ghasts will spawn on top of there, and I'm having to sneak the entire time because of course I'll take damage on the magma blocks if I don't, but realistically this isn't too hard of a process, especially since we're used to sneaking in Skyblock already. And once we start working on the other side, you'll see that the zombie pigmen on one side spawn pretty much immediately. They're not going to be aggro at us quite yet, but it's going to be a very, very productive farm if they spawn that fast all over this platform once we're back in the safety of our little kill mechanism. And oh boy, that right there feels like a lot of zombie piglins to me, but I think we're going to do pretty well out of this farm. And I'm going to leave the replay mod running so that you can take a look at an aerial view of this as we get this whole thing underway, because once I shoot one of these with a bow, it is all over. They are all coming over here, and this chest over here, we're seeing a couple drop into the void as they round the corner of the glass, but the majority of them are going to make it over here, and we can just slash away at them pretty much constantly, and we're always going to get new ones showing up to the platform. Now, we're not killing maybe an optimal amount of pigmen at once. We're not killing the full chamber's worth at once, but it is near constant. We're seeing roughly the same amount of rates, I think, that we would see at a regular zombie pigman farm like the one we built on the nether roof in the survival guide. The piglins do not stop. We're certainly generating more experience than I can possibly farm all by myself, and it looks like maybe a couple of them are getting stuck here and there, but that is trivial compared to the amount we are collecting here. This is truly in overdrive at this point. The amount of gold swords in my inventory right now is something else, let me tell you, and I'm fairly certain that the collection mechanism down here will be absolutely full of rotten flesh and various other things, but yeah, it looks like it's all siphoning through into there, okay? It's just taking its time because there's just so much stuff. I think we might actually have to end up making additional chests to either side and redirecting the hoppers into those instead of having it all go down into one chest, because it's just bottlenecking with the sheer amount of stuff we're getting out of here. In the meantime, though, of course, I can always pull some of the gold nuggets and stuff out of the hoppers manually, at least the ones I can reach from here, because gosh, we're getting a lot of them. I think the main problem here is really going to be the item collection system. But I guess I can always walk up to the trapdoors a little bit as long as the zombie pigmen don't hit me, which they are certainly keen on doing. Just look at this, and I have a smite and looting sword on me right now, so we are getting the maximum amount of drops that we possibly can. I think the pigmen are even trading swords between them right now because there are just so many swords in circulation that haven't been pulled into the hoppers yet. we would definitely need some sort of minecart hopper collection system here. So maybe the collection system might need reworking, but for now, oh boy, we're getting a whole lot from this. The blast furnace here is certainly doing overtime. We've still got a bunch of swords in the chest, a little bit of gold armor going in there as well. Oh, loads of these coming through, and sometimes the nuggets just drop in almost a full stack because they've had time to collect in there already. That is absolute madness. Okay, well, we're certainly getting a fair amount of rotten flesh in there as well. That means a little bit more trading with clerics and whatnot when we're back in the overworld. But look at this. This is the bounty of our gold farm now, and we are getting blocks of gold at this point instead of just ingots. That's phenomenal. My inventory basically fills up with swords the entire time as I'm standing at this farm, but we got plenty more of those where that came from. Let's throw out some of the rotten flesh to see if we can make a little bit of room for the gold nuggets. The gold nuggets are just getting stuck in the hoppers at this stage. Yeah, we are definitely going to need some sort of more advanced collection system, which is going to be a little tricky to manage at first because, of course, the hoppers here are at Y0. They're at the lowest level they can possibly be, meaning that if we want to have something faster than hoppers, we're going to have to raise up this platform here by 1 block. But I'm thinking maybe what we can end up doing is raise it up by a block and then have hopper minecarts hidden underneath here that are going to suck all the items downwards and then into a hopper system underneath that. And that will hopefully mean that we can end up collecting all of the drops a little bit faster, at least clearing them off of this platform so that they can be siphoned into the chests we need. And a sorting system might have to be one that involves redstone dropper pipes or something like that, because of course we can't really use water streams to redirect drops here in the nether, but my oh my, that is there's a forest of swords right there. That is one heck of a farm now. I think perhaps the biggest problem I'm now facing with this farm is making alterations to it, because basically every time I come back to the farm, even if I come back from the overworld, a lot of the pigmen still in the farm are still mad at me, and basically any of the other ones around the outside get aggroed as well, so it's going to be very difficult. I might have to go away and try and despawn some of these just based on player distance instead of actually killing them, because the farm is so efficient that more will spawn basically regardless of what I do. But anyway, what I want to do right now is get hold of a couple more of these hoppers and have them be facing outward towards this point here, because then if I place a chest in there, I should hopefully be able to gather a few more drops a little more easily, or at least have the hoppers filter out into separate locations here. So I'm actually going to remove this hopper here and that hopper there and have them feed outwards instead of this way. And that's a bit of a dangerous process. I can also hear the piglins getting mad at me if I occasionally break one of these chests, but if we put hoppers facing outwards that way, then hopefully we should now have these two chests over here that will be able to fill up with drops. And it's not going to happen any faster, but at least these chests will have a little bit more space in them. Next up, we're going to do the same thing on this side, taking out that hopper, and I am going to end up losing a few drops to the void, of course, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now, how about this one? Let's take all of the gold out of this, and let's just release all of that rotten flesh into the void as well, because I need to be placing a chest behind that over here. Yep, going to be removing that chest there, and then we'll put one here, and then I should be able to add the two hoppers back in there and there. Okay, and the rest of these hoppers should end up filtering down into those chests as well, and I can remove the glass platforms on either side here. Really feel bad breaking this without Silk Touch, but I can trade more glass from my librarians if I need it. And now we should be able to kill the piglins inside the farm, and hopefully all of their drops will end up going to the chests on the outside. We now have 4 of those, so that should hopefully be enough storage for the gold farm if I just keep swiping away at them, that eventually all of the drops will end up going into the chests. And it's definitely a more temporary fix, but it does seem to be working out pretty well for us so far. I think one of the more permanent fixes you could apply to this would be to have the zombie piglins climb some sort of staircase to get to this box here. And we could design the box exactly the same way, but leave room underneath it for some sort of storage system, allowing for filtered storage and that kind of stuff, which would mean we could organize the chests a little bit more effectively, maybe filter things down a little bit faster, and you'd still be able to have line of sight work where you could see all of the piglins over there on the platform, and then they would end up getting aggro towards us when we hit the piglins in the center of the farm. As you can see, those guys are now running in towards the center to try and get me, and as I continue to attack them, they'll continue to pile in. But you can already see just from the sheer amount of gold nuggets in my inventory right now how effective this farm has been. We can make a bunch of gold ingots that way. That's 11 more gold blocks, and I already put about half a stack back in the chest in the overworld. This is absolutely phenomenal. And I think one of the biggest challenges at this point might be to make sure that none of the drops on the platform despawn, which once again is where the hopper minecarts would come in. But alas, I don't really have the room to work with those right now. I'm also going to need more fuel for this blast furnace fairly soon if it keeps on smelting those gold swords. But there we go, 17 blocks of gold and plenty more filtering into the chests at the sides. I think we can call this a most emphatic win, and we can probably even, I need a bit more of an expansion to this platform. We'll put a glass block maybe on either side here like so that nothing will spawn on there, but I can get to these back chests that have even more gold swords in them. But there we go, back in the overworld, 54 blocks of gold in this episode alone, and I'm so happy that we decided to make those changes to that farm today. I think it's worked out pretty well, and that was honestly basically all I wanted to do in this episode. I know it's been a bit of a shorter Skyblock episode, but the next step with the process that I'm going through here is get started zombifying some of these villagers, and that's actually going to be quite difficult because they have an iron golem up there with them, and any exposure to zombies in the villager population is just going to create more iron golems, and I don't want to risk losing any of the villagers I have with a few more of those valuable trades. So I think what we're going to do is go away and work on maybe another system we can add to the villager hotel here, which is going to zombify them and give us the opportunity to cure them without the iron golems getting in the way. But I think that's going to have to wait for another time because I've run out of time for today's episode, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this look at just revamping the gold farm into something truly spectacular. Thanks so much for watching Skyblock 1.16. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on the episode if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.